Divine Principle, Chapter 1 and Creation, Section 3, The Purpose of Creation. The purpose of the creation of the universe. It's recorded in the Bible that after God completed each day of the creation, he saw that it was good. This suggests that God wanted his creation to be the object partners embodying goodness, that he could take delight in them. How can the creation give God the greatest joy? God created human beings as the final step in creating the universe. He created them in his image, in the likeness of his internal nature and external form, and gave them sensibility to all feelings and emotions because it was his intention to share joy with them. After their creation, God blessed Adam and Eve. Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it and have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the air and over every living thing that moves upon the earth. These are the three great blessings: to be fruitful, mature, and ready to bear fruit, multiply, and have dominion over the creation. Had Adam and Eve obeyed this divine mandate and built the kingdom of heaven, there's no doubt that God would have felt the greatest joy as his sons and daughters rejoiced in the world of his heart. How can God's three great blessings be fulfilled? They can be realized only when the four-position foundation, which is the fundamental foundation of creation, has been established. The three great blessings are fulfilled when the whole creation, including human beings, completes the four-position foundation with God as the center. This is the kingdom of heaven, where the ultimate goodness is realized, and God feels the greatest joy. This is, in fact, the very purpose for which God created the universe. The ultimate purpose of the universe, with human beings at its center, is to return joy to God. All entities, all beings, have dual purposes. As was explained earlier, every being has dual centers of movement, one of internal nature and another of external form. These centers pursue corresponding purposes, for the sake of the whole and for the sake of the individual, whose relationship is the same as that between internal nature and external form. These dual purposes relate to each other as cause and result, internal and external, subject partner and object partner. In God's ideal, there cannot be any individual purpose which does not support the whole purpose, nor can there be any whole purpose which doesn't guarantee the interests of the individual. The infinite variety of beings in the universe form one vast organic body interwoven by these dual purposes. Good object partners for the purpose or for the joy of God. To understand more precisely the issues concerning God's purpose of creation, let's first examine how joy is produced. Joy is not produced by an individual alone. Joy arises when we have an object partner, in which our internal nature and external form are reflected and developed. Our object partner helps us feel our own internal nature and external form through the stimulation it gives. This object partner may be intangible, or it may be substantial. For example, an artist's object partner may be an idea in his mind, or the finished painting or sculpture which substantiates that idea. When he visualizes his idea or beholds his work, he is stimulated to feel his own internal nature and external form reflected in it and feels joy and satisfaction. When his idea alone is the object partner, it's not as stimulating, nor is the joy that it brings as profound as that from a finished work. This nature of human beings originates in God's nature. In like manner, God feels the fullness of joy when he's stimulated by his substantial object partners to feel his original internal nature and original external form through them. It was explained earlier that when the kingdom of heaven is realized through the fulfillment of the three great blessings and the establishment of the four-position foundation, it becomes the good object partner that gives joy to God. Let's investigate how the kingdom becomes God's good object partner. The key to God's first blessing is the perfection of individual character. An individual's mind and body are discrete projections, object partners of God's dual characteristics. And in order for an individual to perfect his character, he must form a four-position foundation within himself, whereby his mind and body become one through give and take action with God as the center. Such individuals become the temples of God, achieve oneness, complete oneness with God, with Him, and acquire a divine nature. They experience the heart of God as if it were their own, and hence they understand God's will and live fully attuned to it. When a person abides in the state of individual perfection, he lives as a substantial object partner to his mind, because the center of his mind is God. He also lives as a substantial object partner to God. Both mind and God rejoice as they experience their internal nature and external form through the stimulation which their object partners give them. Accordingly, when people realize God's first blessing, they become God's beloved, who inspire Him with joy, fulfilling all the feelings of God as their own, sharing all the feelings of God as their own. They'd never commit any sinful acts that would cause God grief. This means they would never fall. God's second blessing is to be fulfilled by Adam and Eve after they have achieved individual perfection as object partners to God, each manifesting an aspect of God's dual characteristics. So in order to construct the four-position foundation in their family, Adam and Eve should have joined in loving oneness as husband and wife and raised their children. This would have been the fulfillment of the second blessing. A family or society that has formed the four-position foundation in line with God's ideal is patterned after the image of a perfect individual. It thus becomes a substantial object partner to the individual who lives in oneness with God. And consequently, it also becomes a substantial object partner to God. The individual feels joy, and likewise God feels joy, when each perceives in his family or community the manifestation of his own internal nature and external form. When God's second blessing is fulfilled, this family or community also becomes the good object partner, giving joy to God. Before we examine how a person, upon attaining the third blessing, establishes a good object partner, giving joy to God, we must first investigate the relationship between human beings and the creation from the viewpoint of internal nature and external form. Prior to creating human beings, God created the natural world by expressing partial reflections of the internal nature and external form He had conceived for human beings. Consequently, a human being contains within himself the sum total of the essences of all beings. This is the reason he is called the microcosm of the macrocosm. When God created living beings, He began with the creatures of the lower order. Over the course of time, He created animals of a higher order with more complex biological functions, culminating with human beings as the highest level. Therefore, human beings contain all the elements, structures, and qualities found in animals. For example, human vocal cords are so versatile that they can imitate virtually any animal's sound. Because the human body contains all the beautiful curves and lines of the creation, an artist hones his skills by drawing nude models. Although human beings and plants have different structures and functions, they're similar in that they both are composed of cells. All the elements, structures, characteristics of plants can be found in human beings. For example, a plant's leaf corresponds to the human lung in appearance and function. As leaves absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, the human lung absorbs oxygen. Branches and stems of plants correspond to the human circulatory system, which distributes nourishment to the entire body. The xylem and phloem correspond to human arteries and veins. The roots of a plant correspond to the human stomach and intestines, which absorb nutrients. Human beings were fashioned from clay, water, and air. Consequently, they contain elements of the mineral kingdom. Moreover, the earth displays a similarity to the structure of the human body. The earth's crust is covered with plants. Its underground waterways exist inside the substrata, and beneath it all lies a molten core surrounded by a rocky mantle. This resembles the structure of the human body, which has skin covered with hair, blood vessels running inside the musculature, and marrow lying deeper still within the bones. The meaning of God's third blessing is the perfection of a human being's dominion over the natural world, which, to fulfill this blessing, the four-position foundation of dominion must be established, centered on God. Human beings in the natural world, which are the substantial object partners to God, at the level of image and symbol respectively, must share love and beauty to become completely one. The natural world is an object partner which exhibits human internal nature and external form in various ways. Hence, the ideal human beings receive stimulation from the world of nature. Sensing their own internal nature and external form displayed throughout the creation, we feel immense joy. God also delights when he experiences the stimulation of his original internal nature and original external form from the universe. And this is possible when it becomes his third object partner through the harmonious union of human beings in the natural world. Therefore, when human beings realize God's third blessing, the entire universe becomes yet another good object partner, giving joy to God. Had God's purpose of creation been realized in this way, an ideal world without even a trace of sin would have been established on the earth. We call this world the kingdom of heaven on earth. When life in the kingdom of heaven on earth comes to a close, people are to enter the spirit world and live and naturally enjoy eternal life in the kingdom of heaven there. Based on the discussion thus far, we can understand that the kingdom of heaven resembles a person who has achieved individual perfection, taking after God's original internal nature and original external form. In an individual, the mind's command is transmitted to the whole body, through the central nervous system, causing the body to act with one purpose. Likewise, in the kingdom of heaven, God's direction will be conveyed to all his children through the true parents of humanity, guiding everyone to live as one. Section 4. Original value. The process and standard for the determination of original value. How is a being's original value determined? The value of an entity or being may be determined by the relationship between its purpose of existence and the desire that a human being has for it. To be more precise, the value of a being intended at its creation is not fixed as an inherent attribute. Rather, it's established through its mutual relationship between the purpose of the entity according to God's ideal of creation and people's original desire to treasure it and bring out its true worth. It finds its true value when it participates as an object partner in a God-centered four-position foundation by relating with a person through give-and-take action, and by their union becoming the third object partner to God. What sets the standard by which the original value of an entity is determined? Since its original value is determined when it participates in a four-position foundation, and since the center of this four-position foundation is God, it is God who sets the standard of value. Since God is absolute, the original value of an object partner determined in relation to this standard set by God must also be absolute. Consider a rose. How is its original beauty determined? It's determined when the purpose for which God created the flower and the divinely given human desire to appreciate and bring out its beauty are fulfilled together. To put it another way, an ideal person feels the fullness of joy when his desire to pursue beauty is satisfied by the emotional stimulation that the flower gives him. At that moment, the flower manifests its original beauty. The flower's beauty becomes absolute when it achieves its inherent purpose, which is to give complete joy to its subject partner. The human desire to appreciate the beauty of the flower is an instance of the desire to feel aspects of one's own internal nature and external form through an object partner. The moment the flower's purpose for which it was created and the human desire to bring out its value are fulfilled, the subject partner and object partner enter a state of harmonious oneness. An entity attains its true value when it and a human being, its subject partner, enter a state of harmonious oneness and form the third object partner to God in the four-position foundation. Through this process, the true values of all things are determined absolutely, based on their relationship, with the absolute standard value set by God. Until now, no object partner's value could be absolute. It's remained relative because its relationship with fallen people was not based on God's ideal of creation, but was based on satanic purpose and desire. Original emotion, intellect, and will, and original beauty, truth, and goodness. The human mind has three faculties: emotion, intellect, and will. The human body acts in response to the commands of the mind. When the body responds to the mind's emotion, intellect, and will, its action pursues the values of beauty, truth, and goodness, respectively. God is the subject partner to the human mind. Hence, he is also the subject partner to human emotion, intellect, and will. Desiring to realize his original value, a person responds to the perfect emotion, perfect intellect, and perfect will of God through his mind and acts accordingly through his body. Thus he manifests the values of original beauty, original truth, and original goodness. Love and beauty, good and evil, righteousness and unrighteousness. Love and beauty. When two beings, entities, discrete manifestations of God's dual characteristics, form a common base and seek to unite as the third object partner to God, and establish a four-position foundation, they will engage in giving and receiving action. And in accomplishing this, the emotional force that the subject partner gives to the object partner is called love, and the emotional force that the object partner returns to the subject partner is called beauty. The force of love is active, and the stimulation of beauty is passive. In the relationship between God and human beings, God gives love as a subject partner. Human beings return beauty as object partners. In the relationship between a man and a woman, the man is the subject partner, giving love, while the woman is the object partner, returning beauty. In the universe, people are the subject partners who give love to the natural world, and the natural world returns beauty as an object partner. However, when the subject partner and object partner become completely one in harmony, love is found within beauty, and beauty is found within love. This is because when a subject partner and object partner become one in circular motion, the subject partner sometimes acts as the object partner, and the object partner sometimes acts as the subject partner. In interpersonal relationships, the beauty that a subordinate returns in response to the love of a superior is called loyalty, and the beauty that children return in response to the love of their parents is called filial piety. The beauty that a wife returns in response to the love of her husband is called fidelity. The purpose of love and beauty is to enable two wholesome beings springing forth from God to establish the four-position foundation and realize the purpose of creation. By sharing love and beauty with each other, they join in harmonious oneness and become the third object partner to God. Next, let's investigate the nature of God's love. Had Adam and Eve attained perfection, each becoming a substantial object partner to God, resembling one of his dual characteristics, they would have joined as husband and wife and raised children in a godly family. In so doing, they would have deeply experienced three kinds of original love with their three object partners: parental love, conjugal love, and children's love. The love of the first object partner, the love of the second object partner, and the love of the third object partner. Only then would they complete the three object purpose and form the four-position foundation. This would be the fulfillment of their purpose of creation. God's love is the subject to the various kinds of love flowing throughout the four-position foundation. Therefore, God's love is manifested through the various loves of the three object partners. God's love is the underlying force which breathes life into the four-position foundation. Accordingly, the four-position foundation is the vessel of perfect beauty, through which we can receive and enjoy the fullness of God's love. It's also the home of perfect joy and the wellspring of goodness. Upon this ground, the purpose of creation is complete. Good and evil. An act or the result of an act is considered good when it fulfills God's purpose of creation. This takes place when the subject partner and object partner unite through harmonious and spirited giving and receiving of love and beauty, and become the third object partner to God, and form the four-position foundation. On the other hand, an act or its result is called evil when it violates God's purpose of creation by forming a four-position foundation under the dominion of Satan. For example, when an individual realizes God's first blessing and fulfills his true purpose, the actions to this end are good, and the individual is good. These actions involve the free flowing of give and take of love and beauty between mind and body, so that they unite in the way of God and form the individual four-position foundation. When Adam and Eve achieved the second blessing, by building a family that realizes God's purpose and form the individual, and their actions to this end are good, and the family they form is good. These actions include joining as a couple in the way of God through the harmonious and passionate sharing of love and beauty, bearing and raising children, and thus establishing the family four-position foundation. Moreover, when a perfect individual achieves the third blessing, the actions to this end are good, and all things that he nurtures are good. By relating with the natural world as his second self, and by becoming completely one with it, a union is formed which becomes the third object partner to God, thus constructing the four-position foundation of dominion. Conversely, when a person forms a four-position foundation under the bondage of Satan and realizes a purpose contrary to God's three blessings, this act or its result is called evil. Righteousness and unrighteousness. Righteousness refers to a way of life dedicated to the pursuit of goodness, practiced to further the goal of goodness, and unrighteousness refers to the way of life that runs to do evil, to further its satanic purpose. A righteous life is absolutely required for the attainment of goodness. Section 5. The process of the creation of the universe and its growing period. The process of the creation of the universe. According to the Genesis account, the creation of the universe amidst the primordial state of chaos, void and darkness, God created light. God next separated the waters from under the firmament from the waters above the firmament. He then divided the land from the ocean, created plants, fish, birds, and mammals, and finally made humanity. All this took a period of 6 days. From this account we can surmise that the process of creating the universe took some period of time represented by 6 days. The process of creation recorded in the Bible bears some resemblance to the theory of the origin and formation of the universe as described by modern science. According to modern science, the universe began as expanding plasma. Out of the chaos and void of space, the heavenly bodies formed and gave light. As the molten earth cooled, volcanic eruptions filled the sky with a firmament of water. The land rose, and the water fell as rain, creating the continents and the oceans. Next, the lower plants and animals came into being. Then came fish, birds, mammals, and finally humanity in that order. The age of the earth is calculated to be several billion years. Considering that the account of the creation of the universe recorded in the Bible thousands of years ago nearly coincides with the findings of modern scientific research, we're reassured that this biblical record must be a revelation from God. The universe did not suddenly spring forth complete, without regard to the flow of time. Therefore, the biblical period of 6 days for the completion of the universe is not to be reckoned by the number of literal sunrises and sunsets. It symbolizes 6 ordered periods of time in the creation process. The growing period for the creation. The fact that it took 6 days, that is, 6 periods of time to complete the creation of the universe, implies that some period of time was also necessary to complete the creation of each of the individual beings or entities that make up the universe. Furthermore, the way the Genesis account reckons each day reveals something about the passage of time required for the creation of a being. The account has an unusual way of numbering each day of the creation. When the first day of creation was completed, it states there was evening and there was morning, 1 day. One would think that the arrival of the morning after the passage of an evening and a night would be reckoned as the second day, yet it's referred to as the first day. The Bible states one day to show that a created being must pass through a growing period, symbolized by the night, before it reaches perfection in the morning. Then, as it greets this new morning, it can step forward and realize its ideal of creation. All phenomena occurring in the universe bear fruit only after a lapse of a certain interval of time. All things are designed to reach completion only after passing through a set growing period. The three ordered stages of the growing period. The universe unfolds and manifests God's original internal nature and original external form based on mathematical principles. Hence, we can infer that one aspect of God's nature is mathematical. God is the one absolute reality in whom the dual characteristics interact in harmony. Therefore, he is the being of the number 3. All created beings, having been conceived in the likeness of God, are created beings exist. All created beings exist, move, and grow through a course of 3 stages. The 4-position foundation, which is God's purpose of creation, was to be completed through the 3-stage process: the origin in God, the marriage of Adam and Eve, and the multiplication of children. In order to establish a 4-position foundation and carry on circular movement, a being must first perform the 3-stage origin, division, union action. A being and fulfill the 3-object purpose, with each position engaged in interaction with the other 3. It's like what's needed for something to stand firm. It must be supported by at least 3 points. Accordingly, everything reaches perfection by passing through 3 ordered stages of growth: the formation stage, the growth stage, and the completion stage. In the natural world, many things appear in 3s. There are 3 kingdoms: mineral, plant, and animal. Matter exists in 3 stages: gas, liquid, and solid. Most plants are composed of 3 parts: roots, branches or stems, and leaves. Animals consist of the head, a body, and limbs. There are also many examples of the number 3 in the Bible. Human beings could not fulfill the purpose of their existence because they fell without completing the 3 stages of the growing period. Hence, in their renewed efforts to realize their purpose, human beings must pass through these 3 stages. In the providence of restoration, God has worked to reclaim the number 3, which explains why there are many records in the Bible of the number 3 and dispensations based on the number 3: the Trinity, Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, the 3 levels of paradise, the 3 archangels, the 3 levels of Noah's Ark, the 3 flights of the dove from the ark after the flood, the 3 offerings of Abraham, and the 3-day journey before the sacrifice of Isaac. At the time of Moses, there were the 3-day plague of darkness, the 3 days of purification at the start of the Exodus, the 3 40-year periods in the journey to Canaan, and the 3 days of purification under Joshua's leadership just prior to crossing the Jordan River. In the life of Jesus, we see 3 decades of private life, followed by 3 years of public ministry. The 3 wise men from the east brought 3 gifts: the 3 main disciples, the 3 temptations, the 3 prayers in the Garden of Gethsemane, Peter's the 3 denials, the 3 hours of darkness at the crucifixion, and Jesus' resurrection after 3 days in the tomb. When did the first human ancestors fall? They fell during their growing period, when they were still immature. If human beings had fallen after they'd attained perfection, then there'd be no basis for the belief in the omnipotence of God. If human beings had fallen after they become perfect embodiments of goodness, then goodness itself would be imperfect. Accordingly, we'd be forced to conclude that God, as the source of goodness, is also imperfect. It's written in the book of Genesis that God warned Adam and Eve, "Of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day that you eat of it, you shall die." They had a choice, either to ignore God's warning and lose their lives, or to heed the warning and live. The fact that they had the potential to either fall or to become perfect demonstrates that they were still in a state of immaturity. The universe was designed to reach perfection after a certain growing period, described in the Bible as 6 days. As one of God's creations, human beings are also bound to this principle. At what stage of the growing period did the first humans fall? They fell at the top of the growth stage. This can be demonstrated by examining the circumstances surrounding the fall of the first human ancestors and the history of the providence of restoration. These will be further clarified through a thorough study of this volume. The realm of indirect dominion. During the growing period, all beings in the creation grow by virtue of the autonomy and governance given by God's principle. God, the author of the principle, has regard only for the fruits of their growth, which are based on the principle. In this way, he governs all things indirectly. We call this growing period the realm of God's indirect dominion, or the realm of dominion based on accomplishments through the principle. All things reach perfection after passing through the growing period, the realm of indirect dominion, by virtue of the autonomy and governance given by God's principle. Human beings, however, are created in such a way that their growth requires the fulfillment of their own portion of responsibility, in addition to the guidance provided by the principle. They must exercise this responsibility in order to pass successfully through the growing period and reach perfection. We can understand from God's commandment to Adam and Eve that the first human ancestors were responsible to believe the word of God and not eat the fruit. Whether or not they disobeyed God and fell depended not on God, but on themselves. Hence, whether or not human beings attain perfection does not depend only on God's power of creation. It also requires the fulfillment of human responsibility. In his capacity as the Creator, God created human beings in such a manner that they can pass through the growing period, the realm of indirect dominion, and attain perfection only when they've completed their own portion of responsibility. Because God himself created human beings in this way, he does not interfere in human responsibility. God endowed human beings with a portion of responsibility for the following reason. By fulfilling their given portion of responsibility, with which even God does not interfere, human beings are meant to inherit the creative nature of God and participate in God's great work of creation. God intends human beings to earn ownership and become worthy to rule the creation as creators in their own right, just as God governs them as their creator. This is the principal difference between human beings and the rest of creation. Once we fulfill our responsibility, we inherit God's creatorship and attain dominion over all things, including the angels. God provides us with a course through the realm of indirect dominion that we may attain this perfection. We fallen people who have not yet attained the qualification to rule must fulfill our responsibility according to the principle of restoration. By doing so, we can progress through the realm of indirect dominion and thereby restore our right to rule over all things, including Satan. This is the only way we can accomplish the purpose of creation. God's providence of salvation has been prolonged for so long because the central figures in charge of the providence of the restoration repeatedly made mistakes while attempting to fulfill their portion of responsibility, with which even God could not interfere. No matter how great the saving grace of the cross of Christ, the salvation knocking at our door will be naught unless we fortify our faith, which is our portion of responsibility. It was God's responsibility to grant the benefit of resurrection through the crucifixion of Jesus, but to believe or not to believe is strictly one's own portion of responsibility. The realm of direct dominion. What's the realm of direct dominion? God's direct dominion. And what's the purpose? Human beings, what's its purpose? Human beings abide in the realm of direct dominion when, as subject partner and object partner, they unite in the love of God to form the four-position foundation and become one in heart with God. In this realm, they freely and fully share love and beauty according to the will of the subject partner, thus realizing the purpose of goodness. The realm of direct dominion is the realm of perfection. Entering this realm is essential for the fulfillment of the purpose of the whole creation. What's the meaning of God's direct dominion over human beings? Once Adam and Eve had perfected themselves as individuals centered on God, they were to live together as one, forming the four-position foundation in their family. With God-centered Adam leading his family to share the fullness of love and beauty, they were to live a life of goodness and become one in heart with God. In the realm of God's direct dominion, people will intensely experience God's heart within themselves. Hence, they'll know His will and carry it out in their actions. Just as every part of the body spontaneously moves in response to the subtle directions of the mind, people will spontaneously carry out the will of God in accord with the deeply felt intentions of His heart. In this state of perfect resonance, the purpose of creation is realized. What will the world be like when the natural world abides under the direct dominion of human beings? When a fully mature person relates with the various things in nature as his object partners, they come together to form a four-position foundation. People who are in total resonance with God's heart will lead the natural world in free-flowing sharing of love and beauty, and the entire universe will realize goodness. In such a manner, human beings will exercise direct dominion in love over all things.